Hello everybody, welcome back. My name is Stefan, and today we'll be covering Stellaris 2.2 tall playstyles. Well, more specifically, I'll be covering this with a normal empire, not a megacorp or a gestalt, because, well, this is going to be the most interesting way to play, because with gestalt you don't have to deal with certain resources, and with megacorps, well, not everyone has them yet, so I'm not going to feel too good covering that, and expecting people to buy megacorps for 20 bucks. It's generally not worth it to buy the expansions while they're not on sale, and while mega corporations do add a lot to the tall playstyle, it is not strictly required for what we're going to attempt today. So, without further ado, let me begin by covering the Tomb Technocracy, the main style we're going to cover today, but in reality it has three main aspects to it, which I will cover separately in this empire creation screen. First and foremost, the most important aspect of this build is the 2.2 meta growth, and specifically for that we're getting rapid breeders, and we're also getting xenophobe. This combines for a grand total of plus 30% growth speed, and this also incentivizes to double down on this and focus our attention on actually increasing this pop growth even further. We are going to be going for the biological ascension in this run, and so that's going to increase pop growth speed by an additional 33% with clone bats. So with all the bonuses stacked, we're going to have some pretty nice growth speed on our pops, and it's going to really help us develop our economy in a relatively small amount of space in the galaxy. The second aspect of this build is extreme habitability. We're going for post-apocalyptic along with adaptive. Now in 2.2, post-apocalyptic has been changed from just granting extra tomb world habitability to actually giving you the tomb world habitability trait, which gives plus 80% tomb world and plus 60% any other world habitability. In addition, you still get the survivor trait, so you're effectively 150% habitable on tomb worlds, so 100% habitability on your beloved tomb worlds. Thirdly, and this is the most important thing, we will be going for technocracy and focusing on tech the entire run. Technology is going to be the main driver behind this run. For it, we have materialist and technocracy, and in fact, most of our production is going to be geared around producing a couple thousand research points by the mid-game and outpacing everyone else in technology. Outpacing everyone else in technology is relatively simple now. You can very easily specialize your entire economy into doing that. I do like that about 2.2. And in fact, by year 2340, if you're doing this right, you should be able to get every other empire in the galaxy, even on Grand Admiral settings, to pathetic. Now I do have to warn you, there's going to be a problem with this build, and it's the absolute lack of a war economy. We're not particularly going to be going for alloys or any mineral or energy production in this run, and so if time arises for us to field a fleet, we would have to spend years to designate our economy to a wartime economy to actually be able to support some ships. That is the main flaw, and so if you're playing this on a multiplayer with aggressive players, be careful, because this may screw you over. But anyways, enough theory, let's get to the game itself. Alrighty, so now it looks like we've spawned right near the galactic core. That is quite nice. It means that there's going to be a little bit more planets near the galactic core rather than the galactic rim. I've noticed that, maybe a correlation, but seems like a thing. Now as far as expansion and exploration go, we're going to go for an early colony strat. So what that means is that we send our science ship to explore some systems, but not actually survey them until we know that there's a planet in them. Since there's a planet pretty much guaranteed to spawn within one of the adjacent systems of your starting system, it means that it's very likely that we're going to find a planet, and it's going to really help us allocate the resources necessary to that planet right away instead of waiting for the science ship to survey some extra systems. It's also going to mean that we're going to be able to save up some of our resources and build up a colony ship instead of spending alloys on another science ship. So let's see how this works. As far as our construction goes, we're going to start building up some of our stations in our beginner system, and we're going to start off with minerals, get the energy, and we'll be leaving our free science nodes until right after building our first outpost. So let's wait for that and see if our science ship explores anything. Something here. Alright, size 22 world, that is very promising. Let's see if there's anything right here before we do anything about it. Perfect, a world. Doesn't even matter what it is, because we're playing as a really adaptable species. Literally any habitable world is going to be good for us, even if it's absolutely anemic in size. Even a size 10, I'd say it's worth it to colonize. Worst case scenario, you use it as a pop factory and just resettle the pops to other planets. So now we have gained our 200 consumer goods, alloys, and food, and now we can start off by building a colony ship before developing an outpost. Since the colony ship takes a year to produce, we're going to be able to survey the system and get our outpost in there before we can actually get the colony ship in orbit. So getting your colony ship built as soon as possible is a high priority. As far as beginner and early tech goes, you're going to want to just research anything that deals with your home economy, and if you see any techs that increase your research production, go for it right away, because this is going to be massive for your production later on, and it's going to help you get even more techs later on, and some techs even increase the efficiency of some of your jobs, and so you're going to feel much better about sacrificing a lot of your population for the sake of technology. Alrighty, we have 400 minerals in storage, and indeed we're going to put this to good use. We're going to start by building our first research lab, and even though there's already a research lab on the planet, doubling research never hurt anybody, so let's go for that. Our consumer good economy is going to be plenty to sustain it, and when it gets hectic later, we're going to be able to build more consumer goods on this really early colony that we're developing very, very soon. But as far as traditions go, just go for expansion. We are going to be expanding very rapidly in the first couple decades, and so going for extra pops in your colonies and extra pop growth and extra colony development speed. Expansion as a tree is going to benefit us later on as well. We're going to get an additional district in every one of our planets, and I do hope to have a lot of planets in this tall build. Also, we're going to get courier network, which increases our administrative cap by 20. Now, as far as administrative cap goes, there are three main ways of dealing with it. One is to just simply use a lot of the special civics, ethics, and ascension perks to increase your cap as much as possible, and also keep your empire small. Another way is to just simply ignore it and just say whatever, go over it. It's quite a fine strategy, and actually if you're playing small, because the penalties you get don't actually scale based on relative percentage of empire size, but they're rather static values, and so going 200 over empire size will result in plus 100% tradition cost, regardless of whether your base admin cap is 100 or 500. So large sprawling empires are going to feel it much more than tiny but overly ambitious tall empires. The third method, and the one that we're going to be using in this strategy, is going to be to simply rush tech so hard that we get endgame repeatables by the mid game. And one of those endgame repeatables is a society one that gives plus 15 to admin cap. The goal for this build is to reach the mid game with right around 2 to 4 thousand total tech points. And indeed, we're going to be gunning for that the entire run. And so, hopefully, we're going to be quite fine. So let's continue on with this build, and I'll demonstrate the absolute colonization frenzy that we're going to be in for the next time being. Now, one thing you may notice me not doing at this point in the run is actually doing anything with the policies. And indeed, we're going to keep our food policy just the same, our economic policy on a mixed economy, and our trade policy on wealth creation. And that's because we don't want to go too much over our food production. We are going to be using food quite a lot for early colonization. We pretty much equally need alloys and consumer goods, so we're not touching that. And we also are going to need a bunch of energy credits because we can simply buy everything with that, and avoid getting locked in with consumer benefits, at least for the time being. We do want to switch over to consumer benefits later on though, because the rate offered by this policy is basically 2 energy credits per consumer good, which is quite good overall, and in the galactic market is going to be even better because, well, at this point in the game there's a lot of demand for consumer goods, and so by being able to buy them at a cheaper rate, you're going to be in a very nice position. Alrighty, now that we have our circumcised ship, we're going to start sending it out and surveying some systems that are far away from our territory and could also serve as very nice choke points. We're going to want to start building star bases in those systems, and they're basically just going to block off AI empires from spreading in too close, and it's going to allow us to use up our territory in the most efficient way without any alien disturbances. As far as exploration goes, you want to prioritize planets, then leapfrogging, then just general surveying and anomalies. Anomalies are going to serve as a nice boon to us later on, and basically they're going to serve as pointers on whether or not we're going to want to survey certain systems. Because if there isn't a potential habitable planet in the system, you have to make a decision on whether or not it's worth it to actually claim a system as your own. Because you do have to remember that every single system adds 2 to your empire size, and so generally if there's systems with 2 or 3 of a resource in them, you want to avoid that. Oh no, Xenos scum. That's what they are, right? God damn it. Alright. So we're just going to want to survey that system and try to establish ourselves there. Right now we have quite the society research, so we're going to risk trying to explore them before they explore us. Now, these are going to be the Alpha Menace, and let's see if this works out. Alright, looks like we've managed to out-research them, and so we only get a -20 from also having slavery. Since we're not going to be utilizing slavery in this empire, it is advisable to just turn it off and get an additional little opinion blurb from these guys. One thing that is not quite nice at this point is our consumer goods deficit, and so we're going to try to remedy that by going ahead and enabling one of those policies that we did not enable right away. Consumer benefits. Let's go for that. It's going to take our energy credit economy, but that is alright because we're going to build up some good old energy districts once we need to. Alrighty, now we have established our 2 choke points, one at Zir and one at Te, and this is quite nice. Because we were using leapfrogging techniques, we're able to capture a lot more territory than we would have otherwise, because, well, these are advanced AI empires with advanced AI starts, and so they would have probably come in probably this close before we would have been able to expand naturally into their direction. However, since we have expanded as far as possible using leapfrogging, we now have a lot of territory that we can work with, and so this is quite the life. We've also gotten to the point of our first ascension perk, and as far as this goes, I recommend technological ascendancy because that's what we're going to go for in this run, pure tech godhood. But with that, that concludes the early part of the Tall Empire, and indeed the most important part, because now, by playing this right, we have a bunch of territory all to ourselves, we have a bunch of colonies, and we're going to be able to get a bunch of tech out of it. It's tier 17, and we already have 208 research. Not bad. However, we do want to get this up a lot higher, and indeed, that's what we do in the mid-game. See you there. And poof, we are now in the mid-game. We have over 1,000 research, and indeed, we're growing our production rapidly with a bunch of consumer good plants, combined with research plans, and so this combination is what pumps out all the research. One thing we are gunning for at this point is actually the faith in science and the discovery tree, which decreases upkeep on pops working on research jobs, and since we have a hell of a lot of pops working on research jobs, this is going to have a pretty significant impact on our economy. The tech ends up being quite powerful, and along with the plus 10% research speed granted by the discovery tree, it's very well worth it to go for it in the mid-game. Otherwise, in terms of ascension perks, we're prioritizing the Bio Ascension, as well as Ecumenopoli in the future. Ecumenopoli are of course exclusive to Megacorp, but they are quite fun, and yeah, quite worth it. We're not actually going to be gunning for megastructures right away in terms of getting habitats and master builders and galactic wonders. Instead, we're just going to wait for the mega engineering tech to pop up and get galactic wonders right off the bat. Because, well, with the amount of research that we're going to be getting the mega engineering tech by itself is quite reasonable by the mid game, so we'll just be waiting for that. In terms of diplomacy, we're still keeping more or less warm relations with our neighbors, even though they kind of hate us at this point, but no worries, they're not going to war. And with our planets, we're just building them up even further. And in terms of our fleet, we're still not doing anything in particular. I am building up some corvettes to deal with these local pirates here, but other than that, you really shouldn't have a massive fleet flying around, because it's going to consume a lot of your alloy production, your energy credit production, and since you always want to keep your economy in constant research mode, this is not a good idea. Quite interestingly, the whole tech rush thing actually works quite well with any empire, really. In fact, I have this interesting save of a swarm. I have the 2 quintillion IQ swarm. And indeed, with this build, we have managed to achieve 4,000 production in terms of research by year 2349. So 4K research, quite nice overall. So 4K research, quite nice overall. We have our good economy, we have our administrative cap getting spammed, and indeed, this is exactly what we're going to be doing in our regular build. Every one of these repeatables takes roughly 25 to 35 months, and even at tier 6, it is not unreasonably long, so you're going to be able to keep spamming that and be under your administrative cap, or even completely equal to it. Either way, it's not going to matter, not going to inflict any penalties, and yeah. So with that, thanks for watching, everybody. If you enjoyed what you saw, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy it in your own playthroughs. So once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next one. Bye bye.